The story begins with Hinagi telling MC that she was already in a relationship with someone else. MC had gathered all his courage to finally confess his feelings to Suzurikoa Hinagi, the girl he had admired since childhood. Standing before her with a firm expression, he told her that she had always been special to him. However, after being rejected, MC silently clenched his fist and walked away without saying another word, leaving Hinagi at a loss for how to respond. As he moved away, memories of their time together played in his mind. He had truly believed that their feelings were mutual. Now, hearing that she loved someone else, everything he had believed in started to fall apart. Overwhelmed by emotion, with tears falling down his face, he wished he could disappear from the world. The next scene shifts to Shoryu High School, Year 1, Class B. It was the first day of school, and time for student introductions. For MC, it felt like a significant moment. A girl named Sakura Kana introduced herself with a bright and cheerful attitude. MC observed her, thinking she seemed like the friendly type. As he waited for his turn, he debated internally on how to present himself to the class. Then, another girl named Shikaru Anya stood up and introduced herself by saying she liked insects. Her introduction was unusual, and MC thought she had a quiet and introverted presence. Still, he continued thinking about how to portray himself. Whether to blend in quietly or leave a strong impression. In the end, MC chose not to stand out. He decided to take on the role of someone average, quiet, unnoticeable, and distant. When it was finally his turn, he stood up and gave a brief, emotionless introduction. After thanking everyone, he added that he planned to quit school. The classroom fell into silence, surprised by his words. It was immediately clear that his attempt to go unnoticed had failed. Instead, he had drawn even more attention to himself. Still, MC did not seem surprised by the reaction. The teacher, addressing him by his last name, Kokonoi, asked for clarification. MC responded calmly, saying he was sorry for the strange introduction, but to him, the world felt unreasonable, and school seemed meaningless as a result. Though unsure how to respond, the teacher decided to move on. MC then continued. He shared his full name and said he intended to remain distant from others. He mentioned that he would often pretend to be asleep and preferred that others acted as if he wasn't there. He added that he wouldn't mind if people ignored him or even spoke poorly of him. None of it mattered, because he believed no one would try to get close to someone like him. The room remained silent, and MC believed his plan had worked, certain that no one would approach him. But then the teacher, Fujiro, broke the silence, advising him not to waste his high school life and even offering to support him if needed. MC thought she was being overly kind and declined, stating that high school wasn't the only thing he had wasted. Fujiro, taken aback by the bleakness of his words, told him to sit down while mentally noting that he would likely be a difficult student to handle. And when MC insisted that he was just being modest, it only made Fujiro laugh more, leaving him genuinely confused since he thought his introduction had been normal. Turning to his seatmate for confirmation, MC was met with a smirk and a comment that the school year would definitely be interesting with him around, before being asked to exchange contact information. MC was surprised at how casually his seatmate treated him and mistakenly called him Tanaka, only to be corrected. His actual name was Mahuki. Apologizing for not listening properly, MC was more confused by why someone like Mahuki would even talk to him. When he asked him directly, Mahuki replied that MC seemed more unique than gloomy and that he simply wanted to be friends. However, MC suspected there was more to it, assuming Mahuki intended to use him as an errand boy or someone to stand beside and make himself look better. Picking up on MC's wariness, Mahuki joked that MC looked like he was mentally cursing him, prompting MC to pull out money from his wallet and ask if giving cash was part of being friends, clearly unfamiliar with social norms. Mahuki, now visibly confused and slightly concerned, asked if MC had experienced something traumatic and told him to put his wallet away, which MC did, suddenly appearing very obedient. Despite thinking he was strange, Mahuki smiled and said he looked forward to being in his care, even asking if he was free after school. Just then, their lively classmate Sakurai Kana joined the conversation and suggested they all go to karaoke together, inviting MC as well. This unexpected invitation sent MC into a spiral of overthinking, interpreting it as a classic setup for classmates to bond. He viewed Sakurai, with her bright personality, as his natural rival and sarcastically referred to her as a queen, insisting on calling her Elizabeth, leaving her confused, since her name wasn't even close to that. When MC expressed disbelief at being invited, Sakurai explained that Mahuki had reassured everyone that MC wasn't weird. Looking at the group of classmates, some excited and others unsure, MC abruptly slammed his hands on the desk and apologized for not being able to join them, saying he already had other plans. Sakurai accepted his response kindly and called out that she hoped he'd come next time. As MC walked away, he thought to himself that he hadn't exactly lied. He did have to cook dinner for his mother, but at the same time, being around those girls felt somehow dangerous to him. He remembered Suzuriko Hinagi was already in a relationship, and he didn't want to be the reason for any trouble. Being around someone like Kamishiro Shuri, who seemed too innocent and always uncomfortable around him, felt wrong too. In fact, when he saw their names on the class list earlier, he had vowed to stay away from them altogether. But fate clearly had other plans, putting them all in the same class. Meanwhile, the rest of the class had fun at the karaoke bar and ended up discussing MC. Some were suspicious of him, thinking anyone who quits school on day one must be bad news. But Mio, who joined in, defended him, saying MC was just interesting. When asked how he knew MC, Mio revealed they had played basketball in middle school, though they were on opposite teams, and he doubted MC even remembered. Curious, Kamishiro Shuri asked Mio if he had ever played a match against MC back in middle school, and Mio confirmed it, though he was surprised that Kamishiro even knew about it. He then asked her if she knew why MC didn't show up at the tournament, but Kamishiro abruptly looked away and said she couldn't talk about it. Overhearing this, one of the girls asked if she and MC were good friends, but Kamishiro admitted the opposite. She was convinced MC hated her. Back in the summer of their second year, Kamishiro had developed a major interest in him. Their club wasn't that serious about practice, so most of the boys and girls just messed around, but MC caught her attention. He looked possessed, constantly shooting the ball with such intensity that it felt like he was either trying to prove something or forget something. His passion was contagious, and the club, which was usually lazy, suddenly had drive and ambition thanks to him. They could have gone far in the tournament. At the time, Kamishiro admired him deeply and thought he was amazing for being able to inspire others just by being himself. But he never cared for himself, so she took it upon herself to do that. Eventually, she realized she was falling for him, but being just a kid and emotionally immature, she wasn't honest about her feelings. Instead, she confessed despite being unsure and ended up betraying him in what she now sees as a disgusting way. Reflecting on it, Kamishiro believed she was the one who broke something inside MC. Then suddenly, she turned and looked straight into Hinagi's eyes, which made Hinagi immediately defensive. Hinagi stood up angrily, claiming she was hearing things and dared Kamishiro to repeat her story. Kamishiro wasn't backing down, and she demanded to know why Hinagi reacted so strongly, what exactly had happened between her and MC. The tense vibe in the room was impossible to ignore, and a couple of the girls sensed it turning into a showdown even though Kamashiro and Hinagi were supposed to be friends from the same middle school. Then Hinagi revealed that she was Kamashiro's childhood friend. Kamashiro, now furious, accused Hinagi of being the reason MC changed, and Hinagi admitted it with regret, only to snap back and ask what exactly Kamashiro had done to MC. As things escalated, Sakurai jumped in and pulled the two girls apart before it turned into a WWE cage match. She reminded everyone that they were supposed to be hanging out and getting along. The rest of the group, clearly uncomfortable, just forced smiles to hide their second-hand embarrassment. Soon after, Hinagi grabbed her bag and stormed out, saying she was leaving, and Kamashiro apologized for the drama before also excusing herself. Once they were gone, the group could finally breathe again, and to lighten the mood, they asked Kazunari to sing something, which he happily did. Myo, however, was still stunned and left thinking deeply about MC's mysterious past. That night, the MC found himself in the hot seat thanks to his unhinged introduction at school. His sister Yuri was furious, grilling him so intensely that he couldn't even enjoy his dinner. As he took a bite of his dry food, he couldn't help but suspect that someone was spying on him. After all, how else would Yuri know exactly what he said? Suddenly, she asked if he had embarrassed himself on purpose just to avoid Hinagi and Kamashiro. The MC sighed and claimed he had no comment, but one look at Yuri's death stare was enough to make him spill the truth. He figured she'd heard about Hinagi since she was his childhood friend, but he was shocked that she also knew about Kamashiro. Suddenly, the MC stood up, saying he had to study, clearly trying to escape the conversation. Sensing something was off, Yuri asked if he was okay, and though he insisted he was fine, he stormed off to his room. As he collapsed onto his bed, guilt gnawed at him. Had he been too harsh? Could it be that Yuri actually cared about him? No, that couldn't be. Yuri hated his guts, right? Meanwhile, downstairs, Yuri slammed her fist on the table, furious. Why was her brother always the one suffering? She had hoped he'd have a brighter high school life, but it seemed nothing had changed. To her, both Suzurikoa Hinagi and Kamashiro Shuri were useless little rats who didn't deserve to be near her brother, and she vowed never to forgive them. Based on the look in the MC's eyes, she was convinced he still hated her. He only spoke to her when necessary, and she knew this wasn't how siblings were supposed to act. But she couldn't blame him. After what she had done, it made sense. Ever since that one fateful day, he had never called her his sister again. Wrapping her arms around herself, Yuri accepted the painful truth that her brother might always hate her, but even so, she silently vowed to protect him from Kamashiro and Hinagi. The next day at school, both girls tried to approach the MC. Kamashiro asked if he was joining the basketball club and said she planned to be the manager, while Hinagi invited him to have lunch with her in the cafeteria. The MC, completely baffled, wondered why God kept throwing trials at him. He had always been unlucky with women. His mother neglected him, his sister seemed to despise him, his childhood friend got a boyfriend right before he confessed to her, and during his heartbreak, he was bullied. All his life problems stacked on top of one another, but the clearest one was his messed up relationship with women. With all this in mind, the MC started theorizing that maybe he was a reincarnated soul from another world who had defied evil, died, and was now living this cursed life full of karma. That might explain why he couldn't form deep connections or show empathy anymore. It was overwhelming, and he had given up trying to make sense of it. Yet here he was, caught in a ridiculous moment where Hinagi and Kamashiro seemed to be fighting over him. Kamashiro asked Hinagi to talk to the MC later since she spoke to him first, but Hinagi refused, saying she'd already invited him to lunch. The girls bickered, while the MC silently begged the universe to make them fight somewhere else because he didn't even want to talk to either of them. Just then, Myo showed up and casually asked which club the MC was planning to join. That one innocent question instantly made the tension worse, and the MC shot him a frustrated look, pointing out how Myo had just thrown gasoline on the fire. Kamashiro suddenly jumped in front of the MC again, insisting he should join the basketball team. She'd be the manager and promised to take it seriously this time. But the thought of basketball only triggered bad memories for the MC. He had poured everything into that sport, and all it ever gave him was disappointment. He hadn't achieved his goals and felt there was nothing left for him, so he plainly told Kamashiro that he no longer played basketball. However, she refused to accept his answer and slammed her hands on his desk, reminding him how much effort he had put in. MC responded by saying that she, more than anyone, should understand what happened after he gave it his all. Kamashiro was left speechless and began to tear up, but before she could say anything, MC asked how long she intended to pity him. His words made her feel even worse. He then ended the conversation by stating that he never planned to join the club in the first place. Calling himself a gloomy person whose only activity was heading home, he brushed off Miho's attempt to change his mind and left for the cafeteria without looking back. As he walked away, he briefly wished Kamashiro luck as a manager, not even addressing her by name, which clearly hurt her. On the way, he noticed the baseball club still practicing and recalled his own past on the field. But now, when he held a ball, it felt hollow. He knew he could no longer play as he once had, so he chose not to dwell on it and kept moving forward. Back in the classroom, Hinagi approached him and asked to eat together, trying to lighten the mood with a joke about going on a hunger strike. MC, however, told her directly to stop talking to him. Surprised, she reminded him that they were classmates and childhood friends. He coldly responded that it was all in the past. Then, in front of the class, he brought up her middle school boyfriend, shocking her with his bluntness. As the class started paying attention, Hinagi asked him to forget the past, but MC said he was only being respectful. He wouldn't want his girlfriend acting close to another guy, even if they had a long history. Just because they were childhood friends didn't mean they would always remain close. Hinagi tried to explain, but MC told her he had stepped back when she got a boyfriend, and he didn't understand why she couldn't accept that. He suggested she eat with someone else and walked away, wondering whether he still felt anything after letting her go, despite once wishing her happiness. As he left, the class murmured. Some students expressed disappointment over missing their chance with Hinagi, while others assumed she was already in a relationship. When someone asked who the boyfriend was, another student seemed ready to answer, but before they could, Hinagi interrupted, her voice rising as she asked everyone to be quiet. Shaking and tearful, she admitted that everything was her fault. Just then, the teacher entered the room and announced an outdoor lesson planned for later in the day. The next day was the school's annual hiking event, intended to build friendships through group activities. As soon as the teacher instructed the students to form groups of 4, the classroom filled with excitement. MC sighed quietly, already expecting the outcome. As he predicted, students quickly formed their groups, and he remained alone. The teacher looked around the room, trying to find someone willing to team up with him. While some might have felt humiliated, MC seemed indifferent. It only confirmed that he had been distancing himself from others. Before he could dwell on it, Myo approached him with a friendly expression and asked to form a group together. MC was caught off guard by Myo's straightforwardness but quickly tried to decline, saying someone as outgoing as him should group up with similar people. Myo didn't back down, and they began to argue back and forth. Meanwhile, 2 other students, Hinagi and Kamashiro, stood behind them, silently observing. Regardless of the disagreement, they had already decided they would be joining the group, whether MC approved or not. The following day, the class arrived at their destination for a hiking trip. As soon as they stepped off the bus, MC wandered away from the group, leaving Muo puzzled by his sudden detour. Moments later, he stood in front of the mountains and shouted, "TARDIS." The randomness of it left everyone visibly confused. Muo sighed, quietly commenting that MC would never be as funny as his best friend. Just then, Hinagi and Kamashiro appeared nearby, prompting MC to quickly distance himself from them. As the group began the hike, he remained careful not to interact with the girls. Muo, sensing the tension, tried to break the silence by chatting with him, but MC only gave her minimal responses. Internally, he was caught in a whirlwind of thoughts. He kept wondering why Hinagi and Kamashiro had chosen to pair up with him when they could have walked with their close friends instead. He feared he might just end up ruining their high school experience. The hike continued until Hinagi suddenly twisted her ankle, forcing the group to take a break. MC approached her quietly and told her to remove her shoe so he could check the injury. The sudden command shocked everyone, especially Hinagi. Flustered, she clutched her jacket and whispered that they should do something like that in private. MC blinked in confusion, asking what she was talking about, clarifying that he only wanted to look at her foot because she was injured. Relieved but still embarrassed, Hinagi took off her shoe and showed him her swollen ankle. MC immediately apologized, saying the group must have been walking too fast. Hinagi quickly denied it was his fault and instead apologized for slowing everyone down. Kamashiro gently reassured her, telling her not to worry. But just as the tension seemed to ease, Hinagi tensed up again and defensively blurted out that her feet didn't smell. Caught off guard, MC teased that if he said otherwise, she'd probably feel insulted anyway, which only made her more self-conscious. Trying to lighten the mood, MC joked that he could just pinch his nose so he wouldn't have to smell anything. Unfortunately, the comment backfired and made things even more awkward. Finally fed up with the back and forth, he told Hinagi he would just smell her foot to prove it didn't stink. Hinagi panicked and squirmed in protest, but MC was already leaning in, determined to end the drama once and for all. Of course, the scene was drawn in full comedic glory, Hinagi screaming, MC completely unfazed. In his head, MC resigned himself to the inevitable. If everyone was going to label him as the guy with the foot fetish, he might as well own it. After the chaos died down, MC carefully bandaged Hinagi's foot. She tried standing up, and when he asked if the bandage was too tight, she replied that it was perfect. MC handed her a bottle of water and assured her they would move at a slower pace from now on. Just as the group was about to resume their hike, their teacher suddenly clutched MC's arm and asked him to bandage her feet too. Seeing her completely drained, MC couldn't help but joke that she looked like a brain-dead zombie. He warned her that with stamina like this, she'd definitely struggle at one of her future kids' school sports festivals. Offended, the teacher snapped that she wasn't even married yet. Trying to shift the situation, MC called Kamashiro over and asked her to help the teacher. He reminded her that she wanted to be the manager of the basketball team someday, and learning to bandage someone properly would be a valuable skill. Kamashiro didn't hesitate, she nodded and jumped right into action, following his instructions with surprising confidence. Once Kamashiro finished helping the teacher, she looked to MC expectantly and proudly asked for some praise. MC, however, was caught off guard. She looked like a dog waiting for someone to take her for a walk. In a strange but playful move, he tossed a piece of candy into the distance. To his surprise, Kamashiro actually ran off and returned with it in hand, asking for a pat on the head. At that point, MC felt like he'd somehow become annoyed. He reminded her she wasn't a dog, she was a human being. Kamashiro snapped back that she was just following his commands, like he'd asked. Fed up with the bizarre exchange, MC declared that if she insisted on acting like a dog, then he'd treat her like one. He gave her the head pat she wanted, but then, taking the joke too far, started rubbing her stomach like someone would do to a puppy. Kamashiro burst into ticklish laughter, trying to squirm away, flustered and blushing. She managed to stammer out, "Just the head." But MC kept going, and Kamashiro ended up on the ground, gasping and overwhelmed, as if she'd just had a full emotional meltdown. MC had nothing left to say. He simply looked down at her and asked if she'd finally remembered that she was human. Kamashiro, breathing heavily, nodded and rolled onto her side. She reminded him, half joking and half serious, not to do something like that to anyone else. People might take it the wrong way. MC was confused. Wasn't doing it to her already a problem? Kamashiro told him it didn't matter who it was still wrong either way. Then, suddenly, she laughed. The tension lifted for a moment as Kamashiro remarked how it felt just like last year, back when the two of them were still close. She gently touched MC's arm and asked if it felt okay now. He reassured her that it did and told her not to worry. But Kamashiro looked uneasy. She admitted that she still felt guilty, so much so that she couldn't bring herself to do what he had asked before. Seeing her troubled face, MC felt guilt rising in his chest too. He realized that Kamashiro was willing to forgive anything he did, simply to ease her own conscience. Before the conversation could go any deeper, Mio called out to them, saying it was time to move on. As MC walked away, he reflected on his unresolved relationship with Kamashiro. It felt like they were stuck in time, unable to move forward no matter how much things changed. Later, the group arrived at their final destination deep within the forest. The girls marveled at the scenery, amazed by the view around them. MC, meanwhile, wasn't sure how he felt. Was he really impressed, or just going through the motions? Miho, on the other hand, was only interested in one thing: food. When it was finally time for lunch, MC spread out a waterproof sheet, and the group thanked him for always being prepared like their unofficial class caretaker. After they finished eating, MC turned to Hinagi and asked if her foot was feeling any better. She confirmed that it was. She hadn't expected to recover so quickly, and she was genuinely surprised by how well the bandage worked. MC offered her some more candy and a spare set of bandages, which made Hinagi pause. She wondered why he had brought so many supplies. That's when it clicked. She remembered something from their middle school days, something about MC's past that explained why he always carried medical items. MC was stunned that she knew. Hinagi simply smiled and told him that she had always been watching him, even if he never noticed. As MC stood there, silently wondering why Hinagi had been watching over him all this time, she turned the question around: why had he helped her earlier? He gave a simple answer: because we're classmates. Hinagi's face fell slightly at his distant response, though she tried her best to hide her disappointment. That's when MC noticed something small but meaningful: the bare keychain hanging from her phone. His eyes widened with recognition. It was the same one from the festival. Hinagi lit up when she realized he remembered, her eyes sparkling as she clutched the little bear charm to her chest and said that those moments had been fun for her. The atmosphere shifted slightly, memories coming back to the surface. Suddenly, MC asked about her relationship. Had she gotten into a fight with her boyfriend? Hinagi tried to answer, but the words caught in her throat. Instead, she asked him something else: what should someone do if they hurt another person's feelings? Without hesitation, MC replied that he would simply apologize. But Hinagi shook her head. I don't think I'll ever be forgiven, she said softly. MC paused, then offered an idea. Then maybe you could start over? Hinagi looked up, surprised by his suggestion. He clarified. If there was still a chance to fix things, maybe starting fresh with her boyfriend was worth a try. The thought struck her. She stood up, seeming as if something inside her had just clicked into place, and she quietly thanked him. But before walking away, Hinagi turned to MC again, this time with her head bowed deeply. She asked for his forgiveness, for everything. She bowed even lower, admitting that she'd been afraid they wouldn't be able to return to what they once were. That the distance between them had scared her more than anything else. She confessed that apologizing might seem easy, but forgetting the past was not. She couldn't just erase everything they'd been through. MC tried to respond, but Hinagi continued speaking, now openly admitting that she had been arrogant, unreasonable, and selfish. But none of that changed the fact that she was truly sorry. Her voice carried across the quiet forest, drawing the attention of others nearby. Then, unexpectedly, MC said that he didn't remember her ever saying anything cruel. Hinagi looked up in disbelief. Seeing her expression, MC gently explained that if anything, he should be the one apologizing for revealing personal things about her boyfriend. He was grateful, above all, that she had come to him wanting to make amends. He added that he had acted the way he did simply because he needed to let his own pain out. Hinagi protested, saying that he had no reason to apologize. She had been the one in the wrong. But MC remained calm. With an unreadable expression, he told her that the things she had said in the past, even if they were harsh, were not untrue. Over time, he had come to understand his place in her life. Then, with a small, sincere smile, he told her something that would stay with her forever. The distance between them wasn't about hurt feelings or rejection, it was just the natural outcome of choosing different paths. He reminded her that he knew she had a kind heart, and that was why it hurt to see her crying now. Seriously, when did this guy turn into an angle? Hinagi had always been important to MC. But now, the only thing he could do was silently pray for her happiness from afar. He had accepted that he was no longer her childhood friend, not really. They were just classmates now. Later that day, the class boarded the school bus to head home. Just as Hinagi was about to step on, she suddenly froze. She rummaged through her bag in a panic, her expression tightening as she realized something was missing. Kamashiro noticed and asked what was wrong, but Hinagi didn't answer. Her eyes were locked on the string attached to her phone. The small bear keychain was gone. Before she could run off to search for it, MC grabbed her wrist and reminded her that the bus was about to leave. She resisted, saying the keychain was important, it had been a gift from him. But MC brushed it off, telling her she could easily get another from her new boyfriend. That was the breaking point. Hinagi snapped and shouted that she'd had enough. MC was caught off guard, finally realizing how much that keychain meant to her. Despite everything, he couldn't leave her like that. A few minutes later, Hinagi sat quietly on the bus, clutching the string that once held the bear. Her thoughts spiraled. Was this punishment for trying to fix things with MC? It felt unfair. That charm wasn't just decoration, it was a memory of all they had shared. The last thing he had ever given her. She could ask for another one, but it wouldn't be the same. She stared out the window, torn. Should she go back and look for it? The thought lingered, but her injury made it impossible. All she could do was sit there, trembling, as the bus drove away. Back at school, a teacher asked where MC was. One student said he felt unwell and had gone home. The teacher was doubtful. He hadn't told her anything. She asked Mio if it was true, but he only said he didn't know. As the class murmured about MC, Hinagi could only sit in silence, her worry growing. Meanwhile, unknown to the others, MC had returned to the forest. I'm back, he muttered, knowing he couldn't get Hinagi's upset expression out of his mind. He sighed and began searching, telling himself he'd only go one round, and if he didn't find it, he'd stop. On the other side of town, Hinagi lay in bed, staring at her phone with a heavy heart. She mumbled to herself, thinking there was no way to fix what she had with MC. Their families used to go to festivals together, but over time, it became just the two of them. She remembered one night in particular, MC had reached out to hold her hand, but she instinctively pulled away, embarrassed by how sweaty her palms were. She'd tried to discreetly wipe them dry, hoping he hadn't noticed, but he never tried again. Now she couldn't help but wonder, what if she had just let him hold her hand that day? Would things have gone differently? Would they still be close, maybe even comfortable enough to hold hands without thinking twice? Maybe they could have even kissed, walked home together, become something more. But now? Now all she had were the what-ifs. And it's not like she could just go ask him why he drifted, she knew deep down that it was her who ruined what they had. Meanwhile, MC had finally tracked down the bear keychain, though night had already fallen. He had almost given up looking for it. Sweaty and covered in dirt, he gave himself a tiny pat on the back for finding it, even if he'd nearly lost hope. Holding it in his hands, he wondered if Hinagi would even care. He had already tossed out everything she had ever given him, objects, memories, all of it. Still, he brushed the thought aside and decided to head home. But before he could take a step, he slipped. Hard. Tumbled straight down the hill like a bad slapstick scene. As he fell, MC genuinely thought, well, this is it. In his head, he started saying goodbye to his mom, his sister, Hinagi Kamashiro, even Miho. What a dramatic guy. He realized he'd only ever been close to a handful of people, but somehow, that felt like enough. And with that thought, MC let out a helpless scream as he crashed. Flashback to the festival, Hinagi had pulled MC along to get some plum candy. He knew she preferred apple candy, but she said she didn't want to open her mouth too wide. So, they settled for plum. The two of them just enjoyed the moment, like carefree kids. Later, Hinagi made him play the shooting game to win her a bear keychain. MC thought it was pretty ugly, but he went for it anyway, because she looked happy. By middle school, Hinagi had become more of a handful, yet MC still hoped they'd go to the festival together the next summer. Seeing her smile while hugging that ugly bear, he truly believed their bond was only getting stronger. Just as Hinagi was about to say something important, fireworks exploded overhead, drowning out her voice. She had started talking about next year's plans when some rowdy boys bumped into her mid-sentence. MC quickly grabbed her hand to keep her from falling, but she swatted it away immediately. Hinagi quickly wiped her sweaty palms again, but the damage was already done. For MC, that rejection hit hard. That one reflex. The slap away felt like a loud no. He couldn't shake the feeling that everything between them changed in that moment. The next morning, MC woke up in bed, body aching from a cold. At some point, he must have made it home and collapsed in the rain. Glancing at the clock, he realized he'd been out for over half a day. He vaguely remembered a dream, nostalgic, though he couldn't say if it was happy or sad. All that remained was an unmistakable feeling of loss. MC glanced at the bear sitting next to his clock. He knew he had to return it to Hinagi at school. Meanwhile, Yuri walked up to Miho and asked to speak with him in private. Caught off guard, Miho followed her out of the classroom without a word. Watching them leave, Hinagi couldn't help but wonder, was Yuri actually about to confess to Miho? But knowing Yuri, that seemed unlikely. Everything she did was always for MC's sake. If anything, it just confirmed Hinagi's suspicion that MC really had gone home early because he was sick. Still, curiosity got the better of her. A part of her was worried about MC, so she quietly followed them and listened in on their conversation. In the hallway, Miho asked what was wrong. Yuri, in her usual blunt way, demanded an answer about the day before. Then, without warning, she snapped, asking why MC had come home soaked from the rain. Hearing this, Hinagi froze. He'd left before everyone else, hadn't he? Did that mean he'd gone back to search for the bear? Before she could process it all, she rushed after Yuri, calling out to ask if MC was okay. Without even slowing down, Yuri coldly replied that it was just a mild cold, and his fever had already gone down. Hinagi sighed in relief, but before she could say another word, Yuri cut her off with a sharp warning, "Don't test my patience." Turning to face her, Yuri's glare turned icy. Her tone dropped, and with clear irritation, she asked Hinagi what really happened that day. Hinagi froze. Every emotion she'd been bottling up hit her all at once. Her body trembled, and she finally broke down, admitting everything was her fault. She had said something she deeply regretted. Yuri smirked. "So, you tricked my brother again?" Her voice had a threatening edge. "Don't do it again." Hinagi wanted to explain, to clear up the misunderstanding, but it didn't matter. She had to apologize first. Before she could speak, Yuri turned and walked off, claiming she didn't have time to waste. Hinagi pleaded with her to wait, but Yuri flashed a death glare that said, "Don't even try it." Hinagi stopped in her tracks, left with no choice but to cry as Yuri disappeared down the hallway. Back at home, MC was already starting to feel better. He stretched a little and realized how bored and hungry he was. Just as he was about to get up and find food, he heard voices near the door. A moment later, Yuri stormed into his room, looking pissed off. "You feeling better?" she asked. MC nodded. "Yeah." "Someone was at the door," she added. "Who?" he asked. "The newspaper guy." MC paused. "No way." He immediately knew she was lying and called her out. That was a mistake. Yuri narrowed her eyes. "Wanna repeat that?" MC instantly folded. "I said nothing. Nothing at all." He mimed raising a white flag. Classic defeat. Talking back to his sister was a violation of the family's unwritten survival code. Yuri didn't say anything else, just handed him a plastic bag filled with recovery supplies. Everything inside was peach-flavored. MC blinked. "Seriously?" She asked if he needed anything else, pointing out that he already looked a lot better than earlier. MC declined, but Yuri insisted, offering to wipe him down and make porridge. MC laughed, teasing her. Do you even know how to cook?
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Yuri glared, daring him to say it again. Without missing a beat, MC flopped to the floor in total regret. Yep. He'd definitely gone too far. Not trusting his stomach with Yuri's cooking, MC decided to make the porridge himself. Ironic, really, he was the one sick, but Yuri still asked him to make a portion for her too, like it was the most normal thing in the world. Just then, his eyes drifted to his phone. He hadn't checked it in a while, and the moment he did, he instantly regretted it. His screen was flooded with messages from Hinagi. A wave of anxiety hit him hard. Sighing, MC threw on a jacket and stepped out, saying he was heading to the convenience store. That's when he unexpectedly ran into Hinagi. She didn't hesitate, ran straight up to him and pulled him into a tight hug. Completely panicked, MC immediately tried to push her away, mumbling that he probably smelled like sweat. But Hinagi wouldn't let go. Tears welled in her eyes as she confessed how worried she'd been. She had feared something bad had happened to him. Caught off guard, MC awkwardly asked if she'd come to his house earlier. When she said yes, it all clicked. Yuri hadn't been arguing with the newspaper guy, she'd been talking to Hinagi. Realizing that, MC quickly apologized for his sister's behavior. But Hinagi just laughed it off, joking that Yuri would be furious if she heard him say that. MC was surprised by how chill she was. He thought she'd still be angry about everything, but she stayed calm, almost too calm. Without saying anything, MC pulled out the ugly bear keychain and handed it to her. Hinagi took it without hesitation. She already knew he had gone back for it. Trying to play it cool, MC shrugged and said he wasn't in any clubs, so he had nothing better to do. Hinagi smiled, thanking him for retrieving something that meant so much to her. As they walked, Hinagi quietly apologized for all the trouble she'd caused. MC didn't respond directly, instead, he asked if her feet were okay. She nodded and said they were fine, then commented on how nostalgic the evening felt. They used to stay out late like this all the time, only to get scolded afterward. Out of nowhere, Hinagi declared, I don't want to go home yet. Before that could sink in, MC randomly asked, do you still have that smelly feet problem? Hinagi stopped in her tracks, stunned. How long are you going to believe that stupid rumor, she snapped. MC, looking genuinely confused, asked if she was bothered about something other than that. Hinagi flushed, insisting, it's not like that. Seeing her all flustered, MC smirked. There's the Hinagi I remember, he said. For a moment, he had actually thought she'd changed completely. That made Hinagi pause. Have I really changed that much? She asked softly. She crossed her arms around herself like she was trying to hold something in. Deep down, she knew she'd changed on the day that meant the most to her, and the one she regretted most. Trying to change the subject, she asked why MC had gone back for the bear if he'd been avoiding her this whole time. MC simply smiled and said he'd help her when she was in trouble. That was just who he was. But Hinagi pressed further. Is that just because we're childhood friends? MC's smile faded. With a serious look, he told her that if she ever needed help, she had to ask for it. Then, almost as if reminding himself more than her, he added that he couldn't stay by her side anymore. He turned to leave. But Hinagi suddenly grabbed his arm. Her voice trembled as she pleaded, please, stay with me. MC's expression darkened. He looked away. That's not my job anymore, he said quietly. Then Hinagi dropped a bombshell. I broke up with my boyfriend. And just like that, the plot deepened. Hinagi admitted the relationship had only lasted 2 weeks and apologized for not telling MC sooner. She broke down in front of him, desperately asking if they could go back to how things were. Back when they were just childhood friends. But MC didn't hesitate. He said he couldn't. The words fell heavy between them. Hinagi, unwilling to give up, asked if it was already too late, or if it was because of Kamashiro. But MC denied it outright. That wasn't the reason. Still, what he said next hit even harder. He told her he didn't feel the same about her anymore. Hinagi's breath caught in her throat. She had come prepared for a painful conversation, but hearing him say it so plainly still hurt. Even so, she stood her ground. Her voice was steady as she admitted that she had always liked him. Even as kids. She had been happy when he confessed. She had wanted to respond right away, but couldn't. There were reasons. Before she could explain further, MC gently pushed her away. He told her he didn't realize she was such a liar. She froze. He didn't believe her any of it. He asked if she really hadn't dated that boy simply because she liked MC, or if she was the kind of person who could just date someone she didn't care for. His words were sharp, and Hinagi couldn't help but squeeze the bear in her hands as she tried to defend herself. Her voice trembled as she insisted it was the truth. Back then, she had panicked. MC had always seemed untouchable, popular, composed, and capable of anything. And on top of that, he was kind. Too kind. When rumors about him and Kamashiro started to spread, more girls began gravitating toward him. Meanwhile, Hinagi felt stuck, held back by everything happening in her life. Before she realized it, things had gone out of control. But still, she remembered the promise they made when they were young. She promised to always stay by his side, and he promised to help her whenever she needed it. That memory had never left her. Maybe it hadn't left him either. After all, he had gone back for the bear. Hinagi wanted to explain more, to tell him everything. But she couldn't stop MC from walking away. She stood there, frozen in place, unable to fix the mess that had built up over time. Her eyes blurred with tears. Guilt weighed heavily on her, she blamed herself for everything. She had been too afraid to open up, too scared to let MC see the sides of her she hated the most. She thought that if he saw the selfish, insecure parts of her, he'd leave her for good. That fear had held her back until it was too late. She saw herself as someone who ruined everything, someone whose love had been twisted by jealousy, fear, and hesitation. But even so, she didn't want to give up. Lifting her head, she told herself this couldn't be the end. If she wanted to move forward, she had to take the first step. She had to mend what was broken, even if it meant starting from scratch. Even if he resented her. She would start by making him stop hating her. And only after that. Only when she had truly faced everything, would she finally say the words she had been too afraid to say, "I'm sorry." MC was handed a 1 yen bill by Yuri, and he immediately assumed it was to help cover his medical expenses. Despite the fact that she had already given him several gifts the previous day, he couldn't help but wonder if it was truly enough. When he hesitantly voiced this concern, Yuri's mood changed instantly. She became angry and questioned whether he was trying to mock her. Intimidated, MC accepted the money without further resistance, realizing that it was wiser not to escalate the situation. Just when he thought everything had finally settled, Yuri reached out her hand and insisted they walk together, hand in hand, as a gesture of support since he had just recovered. MC was completely thrown off by the idea. In high school, such public displays were socially risky, and he feared it would draw unwanted attention. He wanted to say no, and in his mind, that's exactly what should have happened. But by the time they arrived at school, Yuri was already clinging to his arm tightly. MC could only walk alongside her, silently enduring the attention they attracted. Students began whispering, and some even speculated about the nature of their relationship. MC kept his thoughts to himself but felt that something about Yuri's behavior was deeply concerning. When he reached the classroom, MC sat down heavily, his mind burdened by everything that had happened. It wasn't long before Mio approached him, amused by the scene that had unfolded. With a grin, Mio teased him about the way he had arrived at school. That comment was the breaking point. MC snapped, quickly clarifying that everything had been Yuri's doing and none of it was his idea. Frustrated, he stood up abruptly and announced he was going to the canteen. Mio warned that the rumors would follow him there too, but MC insisted that he simply needed to get something to eat. Elsewhere, Yuri found herself lost in thought. Something suddenly clicked in her mind, prompting her friend to ask what was troubling her. A strange concern had crept into Yuri's thoughts. Had she, perhaps unknowingly, become something akin to a sugar sister, someone financially supporting MC without realizing it? The idea unsettled her. Was MC subtly manipulating her kindness? Her friend, hearing these thoughts, sighed and expressed concern about Yuri's tendency to overthink. Meanwhile, in another part of the school, a girl named Kuka was approached by a classmate who informed her that someone was waiting to meet her. As she stood up, her classmates teased her about how popular she was becoming. She approached the boy who was waiting, only to be surprised by a sudden confession. He asked her out. Flustered, Kuka immediately turned him down. He pressed her for a reason, but she was too unsure to answer clearly. The boy suggested they start dating and get to know each other gradually, then asked if she already liked someone else. Kuka denied it, though her eyes wandered toward the staircase where MC sat quietly, eating sweet buns and speaking to himself. Noticing MC, the boy asked him if he needed something. MC calmly explained that he was only there to enjoy his food. In a reserved tone, he referred to himself as a quiet and solitary type and encouraged them to continue their discussion without worrying about his presence. However, the boy found it hard to ignore him and eventually gave up, walking away in silence. Kuka remained there, and MC felt relieved that the tension had passed. But before he could collect his thoughts, Kuka sat beside him, relieved that the situation had ended. MC was caught off guard. He had just escaped one encounter only to find himself in the middle of another. Without wasting time, Kuka started a conversation, asking why he was there and even joking about whether he had come to confess something. MC, unfazed, responded directly, telling her that she might be reading too much into things. Unfazed by MC's bluntness, Kuka calmly explained that she didn't even know the boy who had confessed to her earlier, which was why she had been unable to give him a proper response. MC was surprised by the honesty but made it clear that he hadn't asked for such information. Kuka, amused by his dismissiveness, questioned whether he was really her junior, given how casually rude he seemed. But MC remained focused on his food, stating that his 2 sweet buns were far more interesting than anything she had to say. Her eyes widened in disbelief as she questioned if she had truly lost to a couple of pastries. MC, meanwhile, was confused about why she was sharing these thoughts with someone she had only just met. Still, Kuka persisted, urging him to at least listen, reminding him that he was just a gloomy loner with no friends. Without hesitation, MC fired back, calling her an attention seeker. Caught off guard, Kuka panicked and asked if he was angry. Unexpectedly, MC's expression shifted, and tears welled up in his eyes. He admitted that, for someone seeking attention, Kuka was surprisingly kind. Even though he often saw himself as isolated and overlooked, no one had ever acknowledged it the way she just had. Somehow, that made him feel genuinely happy. Kuka, startled by his sudden vulnerability, asked why he was complimenting her. But any hint of a meaningful moment was short-lived. MC bluntly added that she was still an attention seeker. Frustrated by the constant labeling, Kuka finally lost her composure and demanded that he stop calling her that, especially when she was already feeling embarrassed. MC, unfazed, asked what she'd prefer to be called, only to realize moments later that he didn't actually care. That comment visibly upset Kuka. As the tension peaked, she took a deep breath and formally introduced herself as Sumiki Kuka, a second-year student. MC, however, remained uninterested, his focus entirely on the food in his hands. Kuka, visibly annoyed, pleaded with him to show interest in something besides pastries. She then insisted that he introduce himself as well. Reluctantly, MC muttered his name. Kuka asked if he would continue to come to that spot, and he casually replied that he visited once or twice a week, though he often ate in his classroom. Hearing this, Kuka smiled slightly and said that if that was the case, she might start visiting the same place more often too. MC let out a quiet sigh and remarked that it might be troublesome, though he quickly retracted the statement. But the damage was done. Kuka had already taken note of his words. She stood up, stretched, and said she felt a bit better after talking with him. Just as she was about to leave, MC, half-jokingly, asked if there would be a consultation fee for their conversation. Without hesitation, Kuka promised to bring him some cream buns next time. At that, MC's demeanor shifted instantly. His eyes lit up, and he dramatically praised her, saying he would now refer to her as a goddess. Hyuka, now completely done with the conversation, yelled at him to stop and stormed off. As quiet returned, MC exhaled deeply. He reflected on how far his peaceful school life had drifted from what he once imagined. Later that afternoon, the sky turned against him. Rain fell heavily, and MC found himself stuck in an unfamiliar alley. The weather forecast had failed him, and as expected, he hadn't brought an umbrella. He looked up at the sky, hoping it might clear soon, but the clouds offered no relief. With no other option, he prepared to make a run for it. Holding his school bag above his head, he ran through the downpour. That's when he spotted a woman stepping out of a cab, struggling with several large boxes as the rain soaked her. Without a second thought, MC rushed forward to offer his help. At first, MC tried to decline the offer, but the woman reassured him that she lived nearby. Eventually, with a small, appreciative smile, she formally requested his help, and he agreed. Before long, MC found himself inside her apartment. The space was minimal, which she explained was because she had just moved in. Sitting down on the sofa, still damp from the rain, MC became acutely aware of the unusual situation. He had been invited into a stranger's home. Before his thoughts could wander, the woman returned with a cup of tea and introduced herself as Himiyama Hasaki. MC returned the introduction. As soon as she heard his name, something shifted in her expression, her eyes widened, and then she sat down unusually close to him. Attempting to ease the silence, MC asked if she lived alone. In response, Himiyama began to open up about her past. She spoke about a former fiancé and shared that after unsuccessful infertility treatments, his family rejected her due to their expectations of continuing the family line. MC was taken aback by the level of personal information she offered so quickly. It reminded him of recent experiences, people opening up to him as if drawn to share their burdens. Himiyama continued, explaining how she once aspired to become a teacher but had been unable to achieve that dream as well. Trying to steer the conversation to a more encouraging direction, MC mentioned that she would have made a good homeroom teacher. That one remark moved her visibly. She took his hand and, with tears in her eyes, asked if he would truly feel that way. Seeing how much she needed comfort, MC responded positively. In return, Himiyama thanked him and then asked if they could be friends. With little room to refuse, MC agreed. Suddenly energized, Himiyama declared she would introduce herself to his parents as a new neighbor and decided to bring soba noodles as a gesture. Without waiting for his input, she took his hand and led him straight to his house. At the door, MC's mother hesitated before answering. Upon seeing Himiyama, a look of concern crossed her face, uncertain about what unusual situation her son had gotten himself into. Quickly, MC introduced Himiyama and explained that she had just moved into the neighborhood. Relieved, his mother welcomed her in, and Himiyama offered the soba as a polite greeting. During their brief exchange, MC noticed something unusual. Himiyama still hadn't let go of his hand. The contact lingered, and he began to question when they had started holding hands in the first place. Turning to him with a soft smile, Himiyama then said that she would be willing to do anything for him as a token of gratitude. Her words surprised him. When she encouraged him to make a request, MC hesitated, unsure whether such an offer was appropriate. Trying to deflect, he half-jokingly warned her not to spoil him, or he might actually ask for something like a hug. To his shock, Himiyama took him at his word and suddenly pulled him into an embrace. MC was caught off guard, his face pressed against her chest, and although he tried to pull away and insisted he had only been joking, he was left confused and stunned by how quickly things had escalated. Meanwhile, MC's mother stood frozen in disbelief, struggling to comprehend what she was witnessing. For a brief moment, MC felt an unexpected calm, as if all the stress in his life had disappeared. But that peace didn't last. His mother's voice quickly brought him back to reality as she sternly urged him to pull himself together. After the moment passed, Himiyama gently patted MC's head and apologized for treating him like a child. Though the situation was already strange, MC admitted that it was actually the first time he had experienced anything like that. In the middle of this unusual interaction, MC mentioned that Himiyama gave off the presence of a motherly figure. Hearing that, his real mother stood in stunned silence, processing the words that had just left her son's mouth. Later that day, MC offered a quiet apology for his earlier, inappropriate comment, but Himyama dismissed it with a gentle smile, assuring him that he could always ask if he wanted to be cared for. Despite her calm tone, a quiet sadness appeared in her expression, perhaps the realization that such small gestures were all she could really offer. Holding back her emotions, she excused herself and left quietly. Afterward, MC's mother sat in contemplation, replaying the moment when he had said Himyama felt more like a mother than she ever had. Searching her memories, she struggled to recall a time when she had ever spoiled or truly comforted her son. The truth hit her with painful clarity: she never had. Looking at MC, she sensed that he had long since stopped expecting anything from those around him. A wave of guilt washed over her as she confronted her own absence from his emotional life. She recognized that the damage had been done long ago, and there was no one to blame but herself. Her thoughts were interrupted when MC asked about her early return home. She explained that she would be working remotely for a while and would only need to go into the office once a week. Though she kept her tone calm, internally she had already made a silent vow to reconnect with her son and try to rebuild their relationship. With quiet determination, she put on an apron and went to the kitchen to prepare dinner. Soon after, Yuri entered the room and greeted everyone. She turned to MC and reminded him to reach out if he ever needed help, emphasizing that she didn't expect anything in return. MC nodded, though her words lingered in his mind. He thought back to that morning, when she had handed him some money, and he began to wonder if she had been the one silently reaching out for support. Wanting to take the initiative, MC offered to use some of his own savings to help her. The offer caught Yuri by surprise. She questioned if he truly wanted her involved in something like that. MC simply replied that he didn't have much use for the money anyway. But Yuri pushed back, arguing that depending on savings in that way wasn't healthy. Summoning her resolve, Yuri declared that she would do her part to support him, no compensation required. Though unsure where the conversation was heading, MC agreed without resistance. Before leaving the room, Yuri glanced back at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. There was something about it that felt unsettling. MC was left confused, unable to grasp her exact intentions. A short while later, their mother asked Yuri to help wash the vegetables. Yuri agreed easily but then casually asked which detergent she should use, leaving both MC and their mother momentarily stunned. The rest of the evening passed quietly, yet one thought stayed with MC. He kept reflecting on Yuri's earlier words, that relying on his savings wouldn't be healthy. What exactly had she meant by that? While the principal relaxed in his office, his attention was suddenly drawn to the noise coming from outside. Looking down from the window, he spotted the first-year students undergoing their physical exams. Among them, a few already stood out for their raw speed, effortlessly racing across the track. But for MC, keeping up was another story entirely. He trailed behind, watching Myo pull ahead and openly flaunt his victory. Frustrated and clinging to the last bits of pride, MC regretted ever challenging the school's top athlete. Hoping to shift the narrative, he issued another challenge, this time, one that tested flexibility instead of speed. Elsewhere on the field, the crowd of girls had gathered, watching Kamoshiro, who had just set a new record. MC watched from a distance, quietly impressed by her athletic form and talent. Yet, something seemed wrong. Her movements felt just slightly off. Concerned, he approached and gently asked if she was feeling okay, noticing subtle signs of fatigue in her expression. Kamoshiro replied with a quick smile, insisting she was fine, but MC wasn't convinced. His question had been simple, out of concern, but the way she brushed it off left the conversation awkward. He turned to walk away, apologizing for the intrusion, but she stopped him by grabbing his jacket. In a rare moment of vulnerability, Kamoshiro admitted she wasn't all right. She had skipped breakfast and hadn't eaten properly since the night before. She had kept it quiet, not wanting to seem weak in front of others. The surrounding girls turned to look, surprised by her honesty. MC asked if it was because she overslept, but Kamoshiro explained that she'd simply been too busy, surviving on little more than instant noodles. MC sighed, because apparently, in her world, cup ramen was still considered a balanced diet. Despite the light scolding, Kamoshiro felt comforted by his concern, though she reminded him this wasn't the best place for such a personal talk. The news of her condition spread quickly. One girl asked if it was really true she wasn't feeling well, to which Kamashiro downplayed everything, saying she could still manage. Curious, another asked how MC even noticed something was off. He explained that her ponytail, normally full of energy, barely moved today. The girls were stunned into silence, while Kamashiro scoffed, reminding him her hair wasn't some emotional barometer. Still, the gossip had already begun to fly. MC stood firm, confident in what he saw. With a gentle reminder not to overdo it, he smiled, and Kamashiro, moved by the gesture, apologized for worrying him. As MC walked away, he felt a little relieved, though a faint unease still lingered. Later that day, he was suddenly surrounded by a group of curious girls, demanding to know if he was the MC everyone had been whispering about. Just like that, he had unintentionally stumbled into the Herm multiverse, a peaceful life? Yeah, that ship had sailed. As the girls began closing in around MC, his mind spiraled in confusion, wondering if he'd somehow wandered into one of those situations straight out of a dating sim. But before the thought could settle, one of the girls spoke up, snapping him back to reality. And MC quietly realized, with mild disappointment, that none of them could read his thoughts. While he was still trying to process the awkward fantasy in his head, one of the girls suddenly asked whether a certain someone would finally join the basketball team if MC approved. Confused, MC asked if they meant Kamashiro. That's when he learned Kamashiro had apparently announced she was willing to become the basketball team's manager, on one condition, only if MC joined the club too. She'd said it herself, in front of others, that she'd gladly help out if he became a member. The revelation stunned MC. It felt like she had somehow become his unofficial manager, even though the team wasn't even co-ed. Before he could respond, another guy appeared, grabbing MC by the collar and demanding that the girls hand him over. For a second, MC actually felt thankful for the interruption. Until the guy explained that Mo had said he'd only join the track and field club if MC joined first, and this guy was here to make it happen. The mention of Mio instantly irritated MC, especially as he imagined that smug, self-powered face. The basketball girl wasn't having any of it, snapping at the track guy and reminding him she was the first to approach MC. The two argued, neither backing down, both treating MC like some rare Pokemon card. Just as the tension grew, more students barged in.
The soccer club claimed they'd already invited MC. Then came the doubles tennis club, and even the baseball club, each trying to recruit him, pleading their case like it was a student auction. Meanwhile, MC stood there frozen, completely overwhelmed by the chaos. He wondered how all these club reps just spawned around him like NPCs programmed to appear when the plot demanded it. Without giving anyone an answer, MC calmly placed a hand on his chin and declared that the situation was likely caused by the country's declining birth rate, his way of saying that maybe he was just too valuable in a shrinking pool of options. Then he turned around and ran away. No explanation, just ran. Later that day, MC vented to Mew about everything, expecting sympathy, but all he got was laughter. Mew thought it was hilarious. Not long after, Kamashiro came rushing to MC, flustered and apologetic. She hadn't expected the club members to go that far. She tried to reassure him that the madness would die down eventually, but MC wasn't sure if he believed her. Before anything else could happen, their teacher entered the room and casually announced that she'd drawn lots for new seating arrangements. As things settled, a girl named Minetta greeted MC. Trying to sound relatable, he attempted to sprinkle in some girlish slang during their conversation, but Minetta immediately told him it wasn't necessary. That moment hit harder than expected. MC realized that mimicking girls wasn't the social cheat code he thought it was. Even worse, Minetta looked visibly weirded out, like he was treating girls as some exotic species. Trying to laugh it off, MC claimed he was the rare animal here. She laughed, but when she noticed the disappointment in his face, Minetta quickly assured him she didn't mean it in a bad way. MC smiled back, though a small piece of his pride had already floated off like a balloon in the wind. Then out of nowhere, one of the other girls spoke up, telling MC that his dark jokes weren't exactly landing the way he thought they were. That made him pause. Was it really that bad that someone had to call him out in front of everyone? From the sidelines, Miu watched with disbelief, stunned that MC was just now realizing what everyone else had silently known for ages. Before the tension could settle, a boy named Takashi inserted himself into the conversation, but MC immediately shut him down with a sharp glare, calmly stating that only gloomy people were allowed in this group. For a brief moment, things began to feel a bit too relaxed, but then the teacher snapped the mood in half, scolding the class and reminding them that exams were fast approaching, and that it was about time they started treating school like school. Her tone turned even sharper as she revealed that 3 students from the Go Home Club had caused trouble, dragging the staff room into chaos. MC assistant. The realization hit harder than expected. Before she left, the teacher sarcastically asked Miu, officially idiot number 2, how he was holding up, to which he awkwardly muttered that he was fine. When she was gone, Miu turned toward MC with a deadpan expression and declared that MC was clearly idiot number 1, a title MC did not appreciate. Just then, Kamishiro, now revealed as idiot number 3, shyly asked MC to help her with studying. That single request was enough to set him off. MC immediately decided that forming the ultimate study group was now his personal mission. Miu, not one to be left out of nonsense, proudly agreed and introduced himself as MC's loyal right-hand man. But things didn't go as planned. What started as a quiet group of 3 quickly exploded into a school-wide event. MC looked at Kamishiro suspiciously, asking how this spiraled so fast. She nervously confessed that she had mentioned it in passing, and the news spread on its own. Within moments, the classroom erupted with cheers and laughter as students began assigning themselves idiot numbers. Then, a girl named Hinagi hesitantly introduced herself as idiot number 8. MC looked at her, confused. Hinagi was smarter than half the teachers. She glared back, saying there were things even she lacked confidence in. And so, the study group began. MC walked up to the board with a theatrical air, pretending to be the academic savior everyone needed. With a dramatic flick of the chalk, he scribbled down an equation, declaring it was bound to appear on the upcoming test. Mineta raised an eyebrow, questioning how he could possibly be so sure. With a smirk, MC revealed his ace. His older sister had gifted him last year's question papers. It wasn't cheating, technically, just inherited wisdom. The class cheered like he'd just revealed the meaning of life. In that chaotic moment, MC stood there, not just as the leader of a bunch of underprepared students, but as their prophet of passing grades. Somehow, being gloomy had never felt this glorified. As MC continued scribbling formulas on the board, Kamishiro suddenly raised her hand and made a firm announcement. This was no longer a study group. The declaration caught MC off guard, prompting him to ask why. Kamishiro explained that a real study group should focus on learning how to solve problems, not just memorizing answers. After a moment of thought, MC casually replied that he personally wasn't having trouble with any of the questions. The room fell silent. His tone-deaf honesty lit a fire under the group. Mineta, clearly fed up, turned to Sakurai and dramatically declared how much she despised MC. As usual, Miu blindly agreed, despite not fully grasping what he was agreeing to. That only made Mineta snap further. Now she hated Miu too. Meanwhile, Kamishiro, increasingly irritated, warned Miu not to let MC manipulate him. Miu, bewildered, had no idea what kind of brainwashing he was supposedly under. MC, stunned at how quickly Miu had turned on him, looked around desperately and made one last attempt to get support from Sakurai. But she saw through him completely, brushing off his attempt with zero hesitation and making it clear his puppy dog eyes wouldn't work this time. Surrounded and outnumbered, MC could only accept the painful truth. They had all become his rivals now. So this is how it ends, he thought, betrayed by my own people. Somewhere in the back, Hinagi, seemingly unaware of the rising tension, asked what was even going on and reminded everyone that they were supposed to be preparing for exams. Slowly, the group calmed down and returned to actual studying, working through problems the right way instead of just recycling old test sheets. During the session, Sakurai found herself quietly admiring Hinagi's teaching skills. Her method was precise, her tone easy to follow, and her instructions crystal clear. It was painfully obvious she belonged on the other side of the desk. While the others worked, Kamishiro approached MC with a question, and after patiently helping her out, he pulled back and watched the group from a distance. That's when he noticed something odd. Kamishiro and Hinagi weren't speaking to each other at all. Curious, he asked Sakurai if there was some kind of history between them. Without missing a beat, Sakurai and Mineta confirmed it. The two were rivals, no doubt about it. Eventually, the session ended, leaving the entire room drained. Trying to keep spirits up, MC reassured everyone that they'd reviewed enough to dodge failure, even if things had felt a little rushed. Kamishiro, however, looked completely fried. She slumped over, groaning that her brain felt like it was on the verge of a full system crash. MC chuckled and suggested she do something to relax. He mentioned that whenever he hit that kind of mental wall, he went out to shoot hoops at the park. Kamishiro was surprised. She didn't expect him to still play basketball. But MC explained it wasn't serious, just a way to clear his head. Then, without hesitating, Kamishiro asked if she could come with him. MC smiled, shrugging, and told her she could do whatever she wanted. And for a moment, the stress on her face seemed to lift just a little.